Reddit, what's the most ultimate petty revenge you've seen or been a part of? I used to work at a pizzeria. There was this one customer that everyone hated. She was rude as hell, complained about everything, every single order she ever received, she found something to complain about. And she wasn't a normal customer, no, she would order essentially groceries from us by ordering disassembled sandwiches. For example, she'd order a chicken sandwich but with all of the ingredients separate and in particular amounts, with cutlery, butter, a side of grated cheese, 3 plates, oil, and vinegar on the side, medium rare, toasted bread, whatever that means, extra packets of ranch, you get the idea. But because it was all technically part of a sandwich, she didn't expect to be charged for any of the extras and would complain. She also refused to answer the door when delivery drivers got there and instead would leave the money in an envelope, exact change, no tip, under the doormat and wanted the driver to leave the food on her doorstep. She also had weird specifications about where the driver could park, never in her driveway, only on the street, even when it was raining or she'd complain. Also, she didn't want them to announce their arrival in any way, no knocking, no ringing the bell, no beeping their car horns, they needed to be silent or she'd complain. Nightmare, this woman. And every time she complained, she'd try to weasel some free out of us for next time. Because of course she would. Anyway, one day she says she needs the driver to make change and she wants him to just leave the change in the envelope and not take a tip because he gets paid already. So I tell my driver this and he says, "Oh, I get paid, do I? No problem, I'll take care of it." He goes on the delivery and comes back pleased as punch, doesn't say a word about how he took care of it. I get distracted, keep working. 10 minutes later I get a phone call. It's the crazy lady and she's furious because apparently my driver left her the correct change of $5.85 in the envelope like she asked. Genius. I had to put her on hold so I could laugh. I get back on the phone with her and I said, "Ma'am, I think you'll find that pennies are legal tender. There's nothing I can do." After explaining that I am, indeed, the manager and the highest authority present, she got fed up and hung up on me. That driver is still a king to me. Once upon a time, I was a newly married lad. We purchased my grandparents' house from their estate, as our first home. We didn't have kids yet, so we both had full-time jobs and hectic schedules. Incident, the first, one day, I came home from work to find my dog out on her run, going nuts. She rarely barked, so I paused for a second, trying to find out what was going on, and watched as a bright yellow sprinkler came flying over the fence. There was a bunch of stuff lying about my backyard, where the neighbor kid, let's call him Evil Son, had been throwing it at my poor dog. I walked next door, and banged on the neighbor's door. The boy's mother, let's call her Bitch, came to the upstairs window, not even to the door, and yelled, "What are you doing on my property?" at me. By the way, this is my very first interaction with this woman. I introduced myself, and tried to explain what was going on. She immediately jumped to, "Do you have video of my son throwing stuff?" Then, inexplicably, Bitch started blaming my wife and I. If we weren't such hermits, everyone wouldn't hate us so much. Odd, all of my other neighbors waved when we went by, but we didn't interact more than that. She was the only one I didn't know. Anyhow, she went on, and it turned out that she was upset that I didn't tell her that my grandmother had passed. Yeah. I hadn't told someone I didn't know about a family matter. Fine, whatever. I dropped the matter, and left. Incident, the second, shortly thereafter, I stopped working a regular 9 to 5, and started my own business, working out of my home. I noticed some mail went missing. One day, I see the mail truck go by, and put on shoes to go pick it up from the mailbox. When I get down there, I find the box empty, and Bitch walking away from it with my in hand. I yell at her, and she drops it in a pile on her driveway. Proceeds to yell at me that it was blowing around her driveway, and that I should be more careful. Yeah, so I call the cops. They are reticent to do anything, since I didn't actually see her take the mail from my mailbox, but they still go over to talk to her. I can hear her yelling at them from inside my house. The next day, she runs out and stands in front of my car, trying to confront me as I am leaving. I tell her in no uncertain terms that I am okay with running her over. Incident, the third, A neighbor's pet bunny went missing from its outdoor hutch. Another neighbor spots evil son down at the end of our cul-de-sac, looking suspicious. Bunny is found, strangled, and mutilated, where evil son was seen. Cops are called, denials, the works. Incident, the 4th, we were getting our house ready to sell. Part of that included stripping and repainting our attached deck. I come home from work, and find a can of paint has been opened, and thrown across the deck, some furniture, and the side of the house. There are a few child-sized footprints through the paint. Cops come, but don't give a. Incident, the 5th, evil son is expelled from his elementary school. He was found with a kill list containing most of his classmates. This was not long after Columbine and similar incidents, so folks were sensitive about stuff like that. Incident, the 6th, bitch has an extinction burst, as they call it, blaming everyone for everything bad in her life. She puts flyers in everyone's mailboxes, talking about a conspiracy against her. Did you know that that's actually illegal, and punishable by fine? She does now. Incident, the 7th, bitch takes a different neighbor to task, out in the street. Turns out, she doesn't have any friends, anymore. Other neighbors join the fracas, ganging up on her. Turns out her kid killing their rabbit, or her kid throwing rocks at their cars, and various other events, made her no friends. Incident, the 8th, bitch gets kicked out of a city alderman meeting, where she tried to have the entire neighborhood condemned for various imagined slights. Results, so, after years of dealing with this woman's, we prepared to move to a new house. We threw one last blowout party, as one does. I get a little inebriated, and went on a rant about how little I was going to miss having that neighbor. A friend decided that payback was in order, so we went down into the cellar, and perused my grandfather's shelves of stuff he never threw away. Amongst it all was a bottle of weed killer. Great Depression era, block letters, weed killer. I have no idea what was in that stuff. Now, this is where the story gets a little hazy. My friend disappeared for about an hour, and then was back, as if nothing ever happened. I never saw the bottle leave the shelf. But, a few days later, parts of bitch's lawn started to turn brown and die. Big block letters spelled out, "I am a bitch." I ran into bitch a week later, as I was getting my mail. Contractors were tearing up her lawn, laying down rolls of sod. She stomped over to me, and bitched about my other neighbor's kids. She clearly saw them apply lighter fluid to her lawn, and light it on fire to burn the awful message into it. Funny thing, whatever was done to her lawn, within a week sections of the new sod died, and the message reappeared, although blobby and illegible. And I still have that yellow sprinkler. That bitch. My dad had an old truck parked on the back of our property that some kept stealing small parts from, cap, rotor, points, etc. We wired it to an electric fence power supply. One evening we heard a bunch of yelling and swearing and went back there, and the guy left us some free tools. My family used to own a farm that backed up to a high school. There was a thin tree line and a small fence at the edge of our property. One year some kids hopped the fence, really short chain link one maybe 2 to 3 feet, and stole an engine out of the old dump truck. Another time some kids broke all the windows on the combine. A lot of kids liked to hang out in the woods back then and would constantly leave trash. One of my uncles finally fed up with this started going out there with a 12-gauge fill of salt shot, and would shoot at them. Now I didn't believe that last story for the longest time, until I started hanging out with a guy who went to that HS. And he was telling me a story about how he and his friends would hang out in the woods behind the school to smoke and drink. Until one day some crazy old guy come out and started shooting at them, tagging my buddy in the with salt shot. I just looked at him dumbfoundedly, then started laughing my off. He said, "It's not funny man, that hurts." After I regained my composure I explained to him that that was my uncle, and he probably deserved it for trashing the place and trespassing. I was dating this girl. Thought she was the one. So I gave her the keys to my apartment. I worked late for my job. I was just happy there was someone in my bed. When I got home at 2 in the morning. Came home one night, and she was awake. She confessed to using my apartment to cheat on me with 7 different people. So I packed her stuff up, she was still living with her mom anyways. So I lied to her, and said I moved to Seattle. I moved to Hawaii instead. 3 months after being in Hawaii, I get a phone call from her. I answer, and to my surprise she's called me from the Seattle airport. She flew out there to try and fix things between us. The dialogue goes as follows. Me, so you're in Seattle? Her, yeah. Weren't you listening? I came here to fix us. Me, oh, well that's bad. Her, what's bad? Me, I'm in Hawaii, then hung up the phone. Phone rings, I answer. Her, you lied to me. Me, huh, how does it feel? I hang up again. I don't know if that's petty, but to me was a good revenge.